welcome to Sprouts with Joy. My name is Joy, and today we're going to be talking about my most recent plant acquisitions, or I suppose the plants that I've added to my collection in the last month and a half or so, or maybe 2 months, that you guys haven't seen yet. So yeah, let's just get into it. So for these first few plants, I'm going to actually be talking about plants that I got today at a nursery really close by. I'm not going to name it because it's practically in my backyard, and yeah, you know, reasons. So I went to this new plant nursery that I'd heard about. I mean, it's not actually new, but it was new to me. And I recently heard about it. I had pretty low expectations, and I walked in, and at first they had, some kitschy decorations and, I guess old people stuff, slightly older fashioned. So I was just like, oh, this will be cute, but I doubt it's anything much, because I live in a smaller-ish town. It's not like I don't have regular access to a lot of rare plants or anything. I have to drive a bit farther for that. But this was my first time there, and I walked through the store, and then I entered their nursery, and whoa, I was gobsmacked. First of all, the first thing I saw was a variegated string of hearts, which I did not get, but I'd never seen one in person before. I did not get it because I know for a fact that my cats would just absolutely destroy it. It's a little bit too enticing to a cat, so I chose to pass on it, unfortunately. But maybe someday when my cats are a little bit more, I don't know, if they ever stop bothering my plants one day, maybe I'll take the risk, but I wasn't about to this time. So I walked in and I saw the variegated string of hearts, and I saw also variegated string of pearls and some really cool begonia. I saw cissus discolor and a really good selection of philodendron and Hoya, and I was like, what? No way! They had a good mixture of common and uncommon and a couple of rare plants sprinkled in there. And I was honestly super impressed with how organized their nursery was and how well taken care of the plants were, because I've been to some nurseries where it's like, okay, it's a little bit rough in there, but no, they were all clearly thriving plants, and on top of that, the prices were also quite reasonable. So I could have walked out of there with a lot more plants than I did, but I walked out with 3 reasonably priced plants, at least in my opinion. So I'll start off with the first one, which is a philodendron Mia. Now, I actually don't have any mounding philodendron in my collection yet, so it'll be pretty exciting to add this upright philodendron. Now, I never actually heard of this philodendron when I saw it in the store, but I liked it. I mean, I'll give you a second to take a peek at it. My cat's making noises. Anyways, it's really a pretty elegantly beautiful plant. It's rather understated. It's just plain green leaves. I looked it up online before I purchased it and did a little bit more research. And it turns out this is a newer cultivar, relatively speaking. It came out last year, 2020. And there's not much information that I could find on it, other than some people claim that it's kind of a hybrid. Others just think that it's a failed Birkin, because if you look at the leaf shape, it does resemble a philodendron Birkin, and these happened to be positioned right next to the philodendron Birkins. But honestly, I kind of prefer this to the Birkins, just plain green leaves, because sometimes the Birkins pattern, though it is beautiful, I don't know, for some reason it gets a little bit overwhelming to me. And I know they've kind of gone out of style, supposedly. They're still great plants, but, people don't seem to be going crazy over them anymore. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic for another day. But yeah, so philodendron Mia, I'm excited to see how she grows and develops and matures over time. And it's really interesting to be getting my hands on a plant that's not that popular or not that prevalent so far. So who knows, maybe it'll get more prevalent over time, or maybe it'll just continue being one of those Sorry, my cats again. They're chasing each other and playing and stuff in the corner. Anyway, also, she kind of desperately needs a repot. I can even feel the roots on this pot right now. Just pressing up against the plastic. So I'll give her some time. Oh, whoa, that's Shadow Man. I'll give her some time to adjust, and then I'll probably be repotting her soon. I'm thinking I'll have a mass repot video coming out soon enough that will just be kind of my final repots before winter comes in, because I try to avoid repotting in winter when possible, just because the plants are less likely to bounce back if they get shocked or whatever. But I mean, if you gotta do it, you gotta do it. But yeah, I try to do all of my really needed repots before winter closes in on us, and we're getting pretty close. This next plant on my, this next plant that I purchased at this little nursery was actually on my wish list, and it's a Stromanthe Trio Star. Now, I've seen a lot of these at other nurseries nearby, but they were not in good shape. They had very crispy edges and were just clearly unhappy, and they were also like $5 more expensive than this one was. So this one I got for $8.99. I've seen them closer to the $14 or $15 mark for, you know, similar size or even smaller, which is a little bit ridiculous if you ask me. Now, they are beautiful plants, but I'm happy that I waited to find a plant that was actually in good shape and that was a decent price. And this will most likely be joining my other prayer plants on my piano with a humidifier, and he'll get only distilled water to preserve those precious edges of his. This next plant is actually a plant that I already own, and I've been trying really hard to not purchase plants that I already have, just to conserve space and energy, but I could not pass this one up considering the price and the appearance. So here, let me show you. Oh my gosh, just look at her. I still can't believe that this philodendron micans was $11.99 for this 4-inch pot that is overflowing and already trailing substantially. And just look at those leaves. This might be one of the prettiest micans that I've seen in person. I know they can obviously get much more beautiful than this, but for sale, this is the best micans I've ever seen. Just for $11.99. I know that they've never been actually rare, I think. It was more so a fabricated rarity and price increase because they were really popular and had high demand, and so they just decided, okay, well, we'll just increase the price if people are willing to pay for it. So I definitely saw micans out there for closer to $20 to $30, and in fact, I purchased my micans at a smaller size than this. Right here, this is my micans for about $20, and I thought that was a decent price, and I was willing to pay it, and I don't regret it. I think that it's a beautiful plant. I haven't really rotated it because it sits in a corner, but I figured after seeing this one, how fantastic would it be to combine these into one pot and hang it and have this beautiful trailing down. I would love to hang it up against the wall using a wall hook in a terracotta pot like I have a lot of my other vining plants. I am so ecstatic about this. For a moment, I debated whether or not to purchase the micans, but I started kind of nosing through them and I saw this one and I was like, okay, it's worth it. It's 100% worth it. Get it. And I did, and I'm very happy. So this next plant purchase is actually very similar to the previous one. We're outside of this new nursery territory, and actually I got this plant at Walmart. Now, it's similar to the micans in that I actually already owned it, but I purchased this plant so that I could pot it together with my old plant. It is the Mandula pothos. Now this has to be one of my favorite pothos out there. I love the leaf shape on it, And sometimes I like to poke around in the garden centers and Walmart and Lowe's and Home Depot and, you know, those big box stores from time to time just to see what they have. And I was very pleased to see this Mandula pothos for $3. Yeah, $3 stinking dollars. And part of me regrets buying my other one because I generally knew that it was on the rise as far as being in big box stores. I knew that it was being mass produced, but I hadn't seen one even though I looked and looked and looked. So I caved and I bought one off of Etsy that was smaller than this one for 10 times the price because it was $30. And this is that plant now, and it's doing well. I mean, it's beautiful, but I was just like, really? Oh, well, I guess it was me being impatient and deciding, okay, I really want this Mandula pothos and it's worth it to me. And the price was worth it to me. And I guess if you're willing to pay the price, then, you know, to get the plant immediately, then it's fine. But yeah, I got this off of Etsy for like 30 bucks and this was $3. So I figured if you combine the two of them and average it out, it's a much more reasonable price. And I am going to pot these together into one pot to make one very full, lush Mandula pothos. I've been holding off on doing it because I'm kind of waiting for that mass repot video that I talked about earlier, but also I wanted to make sure that this guy was totally pest-free, didn't have any issues, and so far he's been totally fine. I've even done a few, oops, I spilled dirt. Anyways, I've even done some preliminary preventative pest treatment because it's from Walmart and I don't exactly trust Walmart. So yeah, he's been looking good. I've been keeping a close eye on him. And I can't wait to see these two just, new pot together. So yeah. All right, the next 3 plants that I'm going to mention today were all wish list plants. So if you saw one of my previous videos, I talked about all of these plants, and the Sturmanthe Trio Star was also on that list. But I'm very excited and pleased to announce that I got myself a Hoya obovata. I did. It's just, I've got some drippage here because I just watered it. Probably not the best idea before showing it off in a video, but whatever. So this gal, more drippage, dang it. This gal I purchased from someone on Reddit. My first time ever doing that, but I figured, you know what, it's a relatively cheap rooted cutting. I believe I got it for like 10 bucks or something like that. So maybe not that cheap, but I think it was worth it, especially because I've heard that these guys can be pretty quick growers as far as Hoya go. So yeah, I'm very pleased that I finally got my hands on one. It is definitely one of my favorite Hoya out there, and I hope that she does well in my care. All right, so these final 2 plants I actually got on a recent trip to Florida. I went to visit my family. A lot of my family still lives in South Florida, and my mom really wanted me to visit her favorite plant store, and I did, and oh my goodness, no regrets. It's like I think it's a pretty basic name, like Tropic Plants or something like that. But all their plants were just thriving outdoors. They had a huge selection, and my only regret is that I couldn't get a lot more plants. But unfortunately, I had limited baggage space, so I just had to get 2 plants. And honestly, they were also really reasonably priced in my opinion. And my mom at least was able to get her hands on quite a few plants there as well. She's more of an outdoor plant person than an indoor plant person, but I've slowly been getting her into it. For my mom, we picked up a watermelon peperomia, an Enjoy pothos, Philodendron Brazil, and a Hoya Hindu rope. I believe those were the 4. Oh, we also got a Calathea Freddy. So we picked up a lot of plants for my mom. But speaking of Hoya Hindu rope, my mom got like a big 6-inch pot of it that was just so pretty, but I didn't have the space. So I settled for this little Hoya Hindu rope. So there were quite a few there. Some of them were shorter, some that were just a few on top, but this is just a little 4-inch pot, and he's got this bare stem right here. So I was thinking maybe I could propagate and put this portion back into the pot just to add another little arm, so to speak. But yeah, I thought this was a good specimen of Hoya Hindu rope. If you want to admire it, you can. I do need to clean it off. As far as traveling went, this guy was totally fine. I just put a damp paper towel over the soil, and then I, took some newspaper and kind of packed it in on top of the paper towel, and then, I wish I had something to demonstrate with, but I brought this tendril on top, and I just kind of made sure the paper was over top of it, and then I put it inside a paper bag in a checked bag. I know, I was also juggling my baby at the airport, and I had a diaper bag and a lot of other things to worry about. So I hoped for the best, and I took a huge risk by putting my plants in the checked bags. But this guy was 100% fine. Like, he lost maybe one tiny leaf that broke off, but that's it. And so far, he's just been chilling. So totally fine, no issues. All right, and the last plant is the Begonia maculata whitey eye. Now, I was a little hesitant to take this on the plane with me because clearly it's a big pot and it's very unstable and fragile. So I was a little bit more concerned about this one, and the shadow's on my face. I was a little bit more concerned about this one, but I couldn't pass it up. It was $15 for this beautiful specimen. And I will say, this one had a bit of a rougher time than the Hoya Hindu rope. It definitely had some soil spillage despite my best efforts to prevent that from happening. I also didn't really have access to the proper tools that I would have liked to have to transport this. And I also didn't really have that much space, so I kind of had to smush it just a little bit. And it did lose a few leaves. They just broke off, and there were, I think, 3 leaves lost. So if you look at this, there were definitely a couple more leaves on here. And then if you can see, there's definitely some mechanical damage on this leaf. This kind of got smushed. And, obviously they're not particularly gentle with the checked bags, but all things considered, this plant is alive and well. I was prepared for the worst. I was prepared to have to just completely cut it back, or have it just snapped, or, the absolute worst. But it's already got some new growth points coming in right now, and she seems completely fine otherwise. So I've just kind of let her be. She's acclimating. I haven't touched her. I just have put her in a bright, humid area in my home, and I might repot her eventually. But after that travel, I'm just giving her a break because I do not want her to suffer any more than she already has. Because, I mean, look at how beautiful she is. She doesn't deserve to suffer. So definitely my favorite begonia, I think. That might change over time as I get exposed to more begonia out there and the different possibilities. This is probably the most basic begonia in my experience. It's very popular, but I love it nonetheless. So, all right, well, that is it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and please comment, like, and subscribe if you did. If you didn't, that's fine too. You're allowed to have your own opinions. So, well, I hope that you have a wonderful, blessed day. Bye-bye.